Welcome back, guys, to the Grateful Living podcast. I am fortunate to have Kerri Shields. She is a former Division I women's basketball star at Boston College, and is now the president and COO of Playeasy. Thank you, Kerri, for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Congrats on starting this.
Thank you.
I've watched some of the episodes, so.
Awesome. Thank you. So let's start from the beginning. Talk about where you grew up, maybe what was your family situation like, and what were you like as a kid?
Yeah. So I am originally from a suburb right outside of Philadelphia. So grew up in Philadelphia. I'm one of four kids. I have an older brother, two younger sisters, and we always, I guess, we grew up around sports. My mom was a college basketball coach. She coached at Wnba and coached at St. Joe's University, and then
Awesome.
was a player at St. Joe's University. And so
Wow.
we were always around sports, and something that I always shared with my siblings, and which was awesome. Awesome way to grow up, just always being outside, always trying, new games, sports.
Would you go to college basketball games like on your weekends?
Oh yeah. Yes. I would say my life consisted of any games, college football games, high school basketball games. I just love the environment of sports. I love how, brings people together, and being able to share kind of that love with, my family was just really special growing up. And then my two sisters and I actually went to the same high school. So I was a senior when my sister Erin was a junior, and my sister Shannon was a freshman.
Wow.
And so we were actually able to all play on the same team
Wow.
in high school, which was awesome. And my mom coached.
Wow.
So yeah. It's it's definitely a family affair, you could say. So then we won a state championship. That was really cool. So that was probably one of my favorite sports memories. So that took me to Boston College, where I went on to play college basketball in the ACC, which was, a dream come true at the time. And to go to a school like BC was, an incredible opportunity, and one I'm so grateful for.
Sorry, just take it back a little bit. Did you play other sport, or what was it, or were you was it just basketball, or how was that?
No, so I played probably every sport you could imagine growing up as a kid. So I, everything from soccer to, indoor soccer, lacrosse, cross country, all of the above. But then I think as I started to get older, I think my real passions were in basketball and soccer. So I played soccer until I was a sophomore in high school.
Cool.
And then it became pretty clear that I had to choose one, just because of how crazy the, travel basketball got, and how serious I was about it at the time. And so I decided to go just focused on basketball for my junior and my senior years, which was a good decision, but I'm still a big soccer fan.
Awesome. What was the recruiting process like? This would have been like, 06 to 09 time period, right?
Yeah.
So were you having to send tapes yourself your junior year? How was that going?
So it's pretty crazy how early you have to start in the recruiting process. My first college visit was to Notre Dame. I was a sophomore in high school. So, I was 15 years old. But that's kind of the age where college coaches are starting to reach out and showing some interest. So I think my parents did a really good job of, it was never pressure or something that I had to do, but it was more of, okay, you have the opportunity to go visit some incredible schools. If you're going to do that, why don't you, take advantage of going to a college football game, or uh, going during a big basketball weekend. And
Yeah.
so all of my college visits were actually, well, most of them were around college football games
Yeah.
and
Why
big
not?
games. So
Yeah.
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 So I'll never forget my Notre Dame visit was Notre Dame, Michigan. It was Brady Quinn's senior year.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
they lost, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so that's when it started. I was a sophomore, and then I got it down to probably 5 schools when I was a junior in high school, and I always knew that I wanted to play, but I also knew I really wanted a good education, and I wanted, the best of both worlds. So somewhere where, if God forbid something happened and I couldn't play anymore, or
Yeah.
I didn't want to play,
Yeah.
what kind of school would I still want to attend? And so that's kind of how I fell into BC. It just
Yeah.
gave me the best of both worlds. And then
Yeah.
also, Boston's not too far from Philadelphia. So it was only about a 6-hour drive for
Yeah.
my parents to come to my games, which was really important to me as well.
Yeah. Cool. Cool. So when did you commit to BC?
I committed in April of my junior year of
Oh,
high school.
wow.
So I was really young.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all relative in
Yeah.
the college sports scene. I guess it's pretty normal. I hear kids getting offers at like 13 years old these days. So
Oh my.
I
That's crazy.
yes, I committed right after my junior season, and actually right after I committed, the coach of Boston College at the time ended up leaving.
Oh man.
So I committed to a different coach then. Um,
Recruited you.
yes, yeah. So it was an interesting time,
Yeah.
but I feel really fortunate to have an unbelievable support system, and obviously my mom, she's been a coach, and now she's an athletic director at St. Joe's University in Philadelphia, and so
Awesome.
just having her guidance and her support, and being realistic with what the expectations were going in and being a college student athlete, something I'm really grateful for.
Yeah. How was managing being a student athlete? I mean, is that, I think people think it's only just the season you play, but you're training, they have you come in the summer, right? Before your freshman year. And
Yep.
you're doing
Yeah.
camps and stuff like that for high school kids.
Yeah, so I started college a week after my high school graduation.
Wow.
So I believe, can't believe I remember this, but I think I graduated June, the week of June 12th, and I was in college. I started college classes like June 18th.
Wow.
So
No summer break.
when
Oh,
I still remember kids were, everyone in my class was coming in for orientation, and seeing the school and getting excited. And, my parents were like, all right, well, have fun.
yeah.
You're starting now. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a crazy time, but I think just having the opportunity to be at campus early and really acclimate myself within not only, being on campus, being in a new city, but also just getting to know, what the workouts were like, what our strength and conditioning team, what they expected out of us, getting to know other student athletes who were there for the summer, and also just getting used to the classwork, because it's a tough adjustment for
Yeah.
any student
Yep.
going from high school to college, and just the level of intensity goes up a bit. And so uh, it's something I'm grateful that we had to be there during that time, because it really eased a lot of you know possible stress during the year.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Um, was at that time, you know, were you motivated by the WNBA, or were you just, playing, because, the love of the game and being able to also be at a, great academic school as well?
yeah, I think playing in the WNBA was always something that, was in the back of my mind. I would have loved to be able to get to a point where I could, play basketball for a living.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that always sounded, like a dream.
Yeah.
But I think, and I mentioned this earlier, but I was really lucky to have parents who said how important an education was, and how important it was to, become a well-rounded individual, not just a basketball player, and
Yeah.
kind of putting all my eggs in that basket. And unfortunately, with the way women's sports are today, a lot of those women who play in the WNBA are playing 3 months, 4 months out of the year, and then they have a full-time job, or they're playing overseas. And so the reality of whether or not I would be playing, I knew it was important for me to get the best education that I could, and really take advantage of all the resources that Boston College provided to us as student athletes.
Yeah. At that time, or I guess even before this, I mean, was entrepreneurship something that had been in your mind, or had you been like thinking about it?
I would say it's never something that was on my mind. I think it's always something that interested me. Hearing stories of people finding a problem, and really thinking through to figure out the solution. Especially with the new age of technology. And when I was in college, it was the start of social media. And I still remember making a Twitter account my freshman year in computers and management class, and
Yeah.
talking about the importance of being able to connect with people all over the world just through this one tool. And so I think it's something that really interested me, but I don't think, especially at the time growing up, there was nothing that I was really passionate about finding a solution for. And so I think the key for me, and in my job today, was I found there's a problem
Yeah.
in that I had myself, and now I'm really passionate about finding the solution. And so to say I'm an entrepreneur, really, it's not something I ever thought
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that I would be, but something that I've really enjoyed. I guess being.
Yeah. Um, was there anything else that you wanted to talk about in terms of being a student athlete at that time?
I my time as a student athlete was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I went through 3 coaching changes while I was at BC, and I, had many girls transfer out. My
Yeah.
whole class transferred out when I was there. And so
Yeah.
I think, as I've gotten older, and reflected on, what kind of influence sports have had on me outside of just, the wins and the losses, and the good times, and, the games that you'll never forget. I think more so, I realize how much sports really provided me with an opportunity to face real world challenges, and to be able to get through them.
Yeah.
For instance, going through a coaching change, you never know when a boss of yours is going to change in the real world, and you're going to have to adapt to, that new environment, and how you still accomplish that, main goal that you have. And without those experiences, I don't think I would be where I am today. And so, we might not have won as many games as I would have liked for us to while
Yeah.
I was there.
Yeah.
I am super grateful for everything else that, that experience provided me.
Yeah. To give people some perspective, how many people were in your recruiting class when you came in as a freshman?
So there was 3 of us, and then there
Okay.
were 3 above me, and all of them transferred too.
Because by your,
So,
I think your senior year, you were the only senior, correct? Yeah.
yep, yeah. So I was the only senior when I graduated in 2013.
Wow.
I had a manager, one of my best friends, Lauren Tipsherini. She was also a senior at the time, so she went through 4 years with me. So I always consider her, uh, a fellow senior
Yeah,
classmate as
yeah,
well.
yeah. Um, and so I guess um, after BC, what was your thought process in terms of entering the world?
Gosh, what was it? You know, I think, at the time, when I finished my time playing, I think I needed a break away from the sport, which it just, a lot of people don't understand, everything you do as a student athlete. For 4 years, I was on a plane at least once a week going to games. There was not one ACC game that we could drive to.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
I was, taking a flight on Wednesday night after practice, getting there and doing classwork during the day, pregame before, maybe doing some homework, going to my game in Florida, and then most times flying right back and getting back to class Friday at 9 a.m.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I think
It's an insane schedule.
it's crazy.
Yeah,
It is, and once again, we're fortunate that a lot of the support staff and made things a lot easier. I had a lot of great teachers and professors that were unbelievable with working with our schedule. But I think at the time, I just needed some time to enjoy college. The- those last 2 months, what, April and May, which breaks my heart for seniors this year,
yeah,
but it was such a nice time to be able just to be a student for a bit,
yeah.
um, and get to know people outside that I had uh, never had time to build relationships with. So I would say I took a good solid 2 months to step away from the game,
Yeah.
and then I had an opportunity. I knew I wanted to play in some capacity, so I had an opportunity come up, um, to go and play overseas and also get my master's. So
It's awesome.
essentially, I would go and play for a team over there, and um, I would receive my MBA.
Yeah,
So I did that.
yeah.
The year after I graduated, I lived in Belfast, Northern Ireland,
Wow.
which is still crazy to say.
Yeah,
I lived there for a year. It was an awesome experience, and once again, something I'm so grateful for. The relationships I made over there, the things I learned about the culture, and just how lucky we are, and how lucky I was as a college student athlete. You know, I was playing in Belfast. I would have a game in Galway, and we're all getting in a van, and 12 of us sitting on top of each other, where that was something, we'd have a nice plane to fly to, in
see,
the
yeah,
States,
yeah,
and with meals provided, and
yeah,
pregame meal, postgame
yeah,
meal, and
yeah.
that just was not the case when I was playing. So um, but yeah, it was an awesome time, and it was a great way to start to weed away from my time playing, and also receive my MBA and get an education in a program that I was the only American in. And so
Wow.
to be able to learn, um, how people in different countries navigate the business world, and their yeah, it was a great learning experience.
If if there's a um, girl watching who's like a freshman in high school right now, I mean, what would you say in terms of, her dreams of being, a Division I college basketball player? What were some pieces of advice um, you would tell her?
One, never give up.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's really important to know there are going to be obstacles along the way, but if it's something you're really passionate about and something you really want to achieve, just don't just keep going.
Yeah.
And I also think people don't understand how much work goes in outside of just practice time.
Yeah.
So I'm still involved. I still do color commentating for some games, and it's amazing the amount of coaches who say, I wish my kids would get in the gym extra and get some shots up, or work on their ball handling. And you know the reason I had any success was because of the time that I put in outside of those 2 hours of practice time, whether that's strength and conditioning, whether that's working on my shot, whether that's working on my ball handling. That's when you really get better, and that's really where you can take it to the next level.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, put in the time, and the time is outside of that practice time. But
Yeah. And then in terms of your college experience, for someone who is a college athlete now, looking back on your time, are there some lessons that you have that you know that you would tell someone, or anything that you might do differently now that you're looking back on it?
as a college student athlete, or
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
as a college, I think really taking the time to enjoy
yeah,
what you're doing. I think it's really easy as a college student athlete to get caught up in just the everyday, going to class, going to lift,
yeah,
going to practice,
yeah,
going back to class, going to study hall, um, doing your homework, and doing it all over again. And I think it's really easy to not take time to look around and enjoy it. I was really lucky. I made some really good friends when I was at BC, other student athletes who made my time really enjoyable, and so I'm grateful I can look back at those times and say, like, I made the right decision, and that time was really special. But I wish I would have taken more time playing to you know look around Cameron Indoor Stadium and say,
yeah,
this is I'm in Cameron Indoor Stadium,
yeah,
and this
yeah,
is
yeah,
this is unbelievable. Yeah, so I would say take the time to enjoy it, um, and be grateful. And I I think one area that my parents really helped me with, and kind of touches back on what I spoke about earlier, but taking advantage of all that your school is offering you. And so meeting people outside of just the athletic department, getting to know people, in maybe the theater group, or
yeah,
maybe within the business school, or uh, I was an orientation leader when I was in school, which for Boston College people would know what I'm talking
yeah,
about.
yeah,
But
yeah,
but that summer, as hard as it was to balance with my summer school and my practice and workout schedule, it was the best thing I did when I was at BC, because it opened my eyes to um, a group of people that I probably never would have met
yeah,
if I didn't. And there are so many special people in that group, and that I learned from and still have relationships with. And that was because I went outside of the sports,
yeah,
and I think that's really important. And especially when the game ends, I think you know uh, you want to look back and know you have more outside of just
yeah,
the game you're playing.
yeah. It's tough because it defines your schedule as a college student, because you have practice 3 or 4 times a week, you have a
Yeah,
game once a week, you have lifts, and then
yeah.
film sessions, and
I
so
would say it's something you really have to prioritize,
yeah,
for yourself, because it's not easy. And being a student athlete is not easy. And I'll it it builds so much character because of everything that you have to go through and everything you have to manage in order to be successful. But it's worth it. It's worth it, and it's worth really taking advantage of all the opportunities that you have while you are playing in those 4 years.
Yeah, yeah. So then you spent a year doing your MBA at Belfast,
Yeah.
and then what do you do after? What are you doing after that?
Yeah. So I finished I did an accelerated 2-year program. So I was living in Belfast for a year, and then I came back, wrote a dissertation. I had to write a 200-page
Oh
dissertation.
man.
That took me about 6 months to write. And
Wow.
so when I finished that, I, wanted to stay involved in sports in some way, but also, how, you know, there were other factors involved. And so I had the opportunity to work for this great company called E&J Gallo Winery in their management development program. I
Yeah.
believe it's called a leadership development program now, but I loved what the program really stood for. And, they believed in creating leaders in this program by, uh, you start from the ground up. So so you can know that your boss that you're working for, so like my state manager, I knew had been in the lowest level, and that's how she understood the business I was in. So she understood, the work I was doing, and I feel like I really loved that culture and kind of what that brought for me at the time.
Yeah.
And it also gave me the flexibility to do broadcasting on the side, which was something that I knew I wanted to try out and
Yeah.
see if it was something that maybe I would want to make a career out of.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I did that for 3 years. I spent some time in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, a few months there, and then moved back to Boston,
Nice.
um, which was great.
How did so the broadcasting was with the ACC Digital Network?
Yes, yeah. So I started when I first started doing games. I pretty much just asked. I said, asked BC Athletic Department if they needed someone to do any of the games.
Yeah.
At the time, they were just doing radio for the women, and they said, "Yeah, but I mean, can't pay you, but you
Oh,
can do it." And
yeah, yeah,
so,
yeah,
I was like, "Oh, 100%. It's just for me to really get the experience and
yeah,
see if something that I like doing, and it
yeah,
would keep me involved in the game in some way." And so, I did the first year, and I worked with a guy named Bill Spalding, who I still have called games with, and
yeah,
he's been unbelievable, such a professional.
yeah,
He went to Syracuse, so went to school for this, has made a great career for himself. But yeah, so I started just grinding away doing doing radio. I
yeah.
was pretty terrible, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah,
Not terrible,
yeah,
but
yeah,
it's you don't realize how hard of a job it is to really be on for a whole game,
yeah,
and how much goes into studying the two teams and the game plans and getting to know the different coaching staffs and the players, their schedules, their upcoming schedules.
yeah.
So yeah, it was an awesome experience. And then over the course of the next few years, all of the ACC universities are now on the ACC Digital Network.
Okay.
And so I've done that for the last 2 years, which has been awesome.
Yeah,
I've had the chance to do games outside of just BC. I've done men's games, which
yeah,
have been really cool. I uh, called games at the ACC tournament last year.
yeah,
So yeah, it I want to say it's been like a hobby for me, but it's been fun. It doesn't feel like a job. It's something I enjoy doing, and I hope that something I can continue to do.
cool, cool. I forgot to ask, what's your favorite memory, um, as your time um, with the women's basketball team at BC?
My favorite memory. You know, I think I miss the locker room.
Mhm.
I know that's a, you know, very broad answer for
No,
4
no.
years of spending
Yeah,
in a locker
yeah,
room, but I think, with a lot of transfers and coaching changes, I got to know a lot of different kinds of people, and I think that's something else that's incredible about sports is it really gives you the opportunity to, meet people and be teammates with people who are very different than you
yeah,
and have different backgrounds. And so I think just that time, in the locker room, in the weight room, uh, yeah, I think that. And I think game on the court, I would say, we upset Duke my freshman year. Um, I think they were a top 10 team. That was incredible.
yeah.
And my sophomore year, we started out 12-0. We were top
Wow,
25. That was a really cool
awesome.
experience. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's for a few,
cool,
but
cool, cool. So the hardest part for the commentating has been the preparation, studying the two teams beforehand.
yes, I would say, it's not my full-time job,
Yeah,
especially, over the course of 2 years. My full-time job is a lot.
yeah, yeah,
Being an entrepreneur and,
yeah.
starting a company takes a lot of time, takes a lot of energy. And so does broadcasting.
Yep.
And it's not something you can just
Wing. Yeah,
show up and wing. You
yeah,
can't, you can't do it.
yeah,
And so I think just, the preparation and, I'm there an hour and a half, 2 hours before every game. Um, Now I'm on camera too, so you can't just come in,
yeah,
wearing a hat, which I probably would, but no. uh, yes, the preparation, it's a lot. And then just keeping up with how the seasons are going. I
yeah.
mean,
And all
luckily,
the
once again,
storylines.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's something I do for fun, but it's important to stay on top of uh, what's going on across not only the conference play but across the league in general.
yeah, yeah. So, you're at E and J,
Yeah.
and then what are you up to after E and J?
Yep. So I worked at Wnba Gallo Winery. I don't know if you drank. You probably have drank some of something Barefoot Wines,
Yeah,
New Amsterdam vodka.
yeah,
They have a ton of high end wines, and so also something I never thought I'd know a lot about, but it was a really cool experience. But yeah, so I did that for 3 years. I worked almost 3 years. I worked in um, retail stores, so primarily focused on uh, selling into state liquor stores, grocery stores, anywhere you buy alcohol.
yeah.
And then I spent almost 2 years in bars and restaurants in Boston.
Cool.
So if you're ever going out to dinner or going to a bar and ordering a something off their drink menu, it was something that we were selling into the bars.
Yeah,
But so it was really cool. I love the restaurant scene, and um, I enjoy a nice glass of
it's
wine.
fun.
So I
Yeah,
it was cool to be in a bit of a different industry for a bit, but
yeah,
like I said, it gave me the flexibility that I wanted to do other things. And so during that time, I was also giving kind of camps and clinics for um, kids who, were interested in playing basketball. And, parents would ask me to give shooting camps or, you know, teach their kids, give workouts for an hour. And
yeah,
so I was living in Boston and it was just a nightmare trying to find gym time.
yeah,
Um, I was so lucky when I was at school. I could just walk into a gym and
yeah,
I could just shoot around. But all of a sudden, I was put in a position where I had to find the gym.
yeah,
And it was just a completely archaic process. By the time I found an open gym, it was who do you contact and, do you have availability? Can I come shoot?
yeah,
And so at the same time, two guys I went to school with who played football, Sean Flaherty and Brian Quigley, they're
Yeah.
both, one was a long snapper, one was a punter, and they were giving special teams camps, and they were having the same issues. They ended up having a camp, uh, they got double booked, and it
Oh.
ended up having to be played in a parking lot. And yes, so
Yeah.
kind of came together and said, how is there not, one platform you could go to and find and book athletic space? And so
Yeah.
that's kind of how Playeasy originated.
Yeah.
And that's been, I should say, we spent about a year doing market research, figuring out if it was a problem outside of just, the Boston area. And if it was a problem outside of just us wanting to give small camps, and did about a year or two of market research. And then Sean and I quit our full-time jobs in April of 2018.
Cool.
So it's been 2 years
Yeah.
of full-time.
Yeah. So uh, Sean and Ryan, I mean, were you just like friends at BC? Like, how's, you know, how did you guys develop? Like, have you, and plus I mean, you've spent, a year in Belfast. Have you been able to, prior to this, been able to keep up with them? And how did you all like come together?
Yeah, it's funny. So I, my best, some of my best friends in college were some of the football guys, and they were the only other student athletes at summer school with me. So,
Yeah.
there were a group of like 5 of them that uh, became, my best friends while I was in school. And so they were my year, and Sean and Ryan were a year older. And so they were really close with Sean and Ryan. And so kind of just developed friendship over time, but
Yeah.
nothing, I hadn't seen them since I'd graduated. And
Yeah.
Sean and I were both living in Southie in Boston during the time. And so we crossed paths, and, just one of those, just came
Yeah.
together to,
Mhm.
talk night out.
Yeah.
And I was having the same issues, and he had always wanted to start a company. He'd always been passionate about being an entrepreneur. And
Yeah.
um, he finally felt like he found something that, you know, really needed a solution to a problem. And so, I have to say, our company would not be possible if he did not take that leap of faith and didn't have that leap of faith in me, and me vice versa. But um, yeah, we hadn't got enough funding to be able to quit our jobs and go full time. Yeah, 2 years ago.
How did you raise the funding?
Yeah, this is when I said I didn't know I wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Okay.
Didn't know how much went into actually starting a company, but
Yeah.
Sean was really responsible for a lot of the fundraising, especially when we were starting out, before we actually quit our jobs.
Yeah.
So we have only raised money off of friends and family around. So
Okay.
a lot of it has been just pitching our idea, and, how we are finding the solution to the problem, and um, going to people who understand the problem, and believe in us, because I think a lot of people and companies want to invest not only in the solution but in the people who are trying to find the solution to the
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
so I think we've been really lucky, and we've had a lot of people believe in us and what we're doing, and understand the problem that, we're trying to solve. So um yeah, it's been
Just for
fun.
the
I've learned a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, for the people watching, if they haven't picked up on it, can you talk a little bit about what Playeasy is and what you guys are trying to solve?
Yeah. So from a high level, it's essentially like an Airbnb open table model for finding and booking athletic space. And so if it could be anything from, I want a gym to go shoot for an hour, and within 5 miles of the Boston area, you come on our site, go into our marketplace, and find and book a space that fits your needs. And it could also be used for something as large as, an event organizer needing to run a 3-day lacrosse tournament in, Los Angeles, California. You can come on and say, I need X amount of fields during this time, this date. Where are the available fields near here? So from a very high level, that is what Playeasy is.
Yeah. So they communicate over the platform, over the platform, or okay, and then
Yep. So all communication, and so we take care of all the communication can be done online directly through your profiles.
okay,
And we take care of all of the vetting processes. So every facility that is on our platform, we vet to make sure they're legitimate and
yeah,
all their information's legitimate. And then all payment and down payments, contracts can all be done directly through our site. So we really are taking the paper out of the event booking
yeah,
process.
yeah. What has been the some of the challenges for you guys?
Where do I start now? um, we're in this sports tech world, and in the industry that we are in, it's a completely archaic industry because we're talking about two sides of a marketplace where there's people like me who are looking to rent and just want gym space, or an event organizer just needing fields, so on and so
Yeah,
forth. But then there's the facility side of our marketplace that is extremely complex. So we're dealing with, you immediately think of large sports complexes. So complexes that are built around purely generating revenue by rentals off of their facilities. And so they are highly motivated to have as many people as possible in their space at all times. And so,
yeah,
that's the one sector. And then you're dealing with schools. So that can be colleges and universities, could be private high schools, boarding schools, public schools, grade schools, could be municipalities and government funded space. And so a lot of that side of our market is how they navigate business is very archaic. Right now, it's a lot of word of mouth, dealing with cash and checks. And, I could tell you a million stories of, I tried to run a gym in Boston and I had to write a letter, and, a month later they got back to me just with no, I don't have time.
yeah,
Whereas, especially in the day and age that we're in, where,
yeah,
technology is key to everything that we do. I would say one of our biggest challenges has just been trying to modernize a completely archaic industry.
trying to create the platform. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
it's
it
been hard?
is, and
Yeah,
and
yeah,
having people really buy into, like, this
yeah,
is, this is how want people want the convenience of finding what they need online and right
mm,
away. And people don't want to answer phones,
yeah,
say the phone calls. They don't want to pick up the phone and make a million phone calls till they find the right person.
yeah,
We're just used to having that information readily available to us. And so um, yeah, it's been challenging, but
yeah.
I think we're in a really good space, which is cool.
What have been some of the things that you're proud of that you guys have accomplished? What have been some of the positives?
We're still alive. No, I'm just kidding. But I starting a company it's really hard, and this is where I can go back on my experience and our experience as student athletes. There are obstacles that are thrown your way constantly, and it's how you react to those obstacles and those hard things thrown at you, and figuring out ways to adapt. And build resilience against all of the things happening. I mean, this time in particular is no
Yeah. Yeah.
good time for
People-
any
Yeah.
yeah, it's not good for any small business, especially
Yeah.
one that deals with sports, live events.
Yeah.
And so it's been a really challenging time. But I think I'm really proud of, we've never lost sight of our goal. And, that might be sacrificing more than we thought we would have to sacrifice, or, things taking a longer time than we originally expected. But we haven't lost sight of the goal we're trying to accomplish, and we found ways to adapt. Um, and we've just built resilience, and I think that's really important for any small business right now,
Yeah.
during this time.
Yeah. I guess are there any similarities between, you know, being on a Division 1 college basketball team and being a founder of a small business?
Yes, I would say there are a lot of similarities. So, one, just the work that is put into it. It's not a 9 to 5 job, and it's not
Yeah.
for everyone, and it's hard, and it's a lot of hard
Yeah.
work, and it's, like I said, it's a lot about, adapting, and um, just a lot of resilience, because,
Yeah.
especially, as you said, as you're raising money or as you're pitching your ideas, and getting a lot of no's, and,
Yeah.
this isn't going to work, or um, we don't believe in this. You have to have the confidence to say, I know I know what we're doing is solving a problem, and I know
Yeah.
that this is a problem that we had, and just because so and so or person or company doesn't think the same, I'm not going to let that get to me.
Yeah.
And I think, it's the same as playing a sport. You lose games, and you don't
Mhm.
have time to dwell on it during a
Yeah.
season. You have to figure out a way, think about what you did wrong, what you could do better, and then get up the next day ready to get that next win. And so I think a lot of that mentality is something that we've taken, with us into starting this company.
Yeah. What do you hope, and I'm not sure if but like the vision of the company a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, I don't know if you're thinking that far, but what do you hope to, Playeasy's impact is on, um, the world?
I really believe if you're starting a company, you better really have a passion in what you're doing,
Yeah.
because there are some long days, and
Yeah.
there are some tough times. And so I think what really drives me every day is that I believe in the impact that sports can have on kids and individuals and communities and states. And I think it's a powerful thing. And I think one of the main barriers into allowing for every kid to play is the access to athletic space. And,
Yeah.
I said I I was giving shooting clinics, when I was out of college. And, it wasn't until I started doing this that I found out that there was a gym under a church down the street from me. The church I go to had a
Mhm.
gym in its basement, and
Okay.
it just went completely unused. And
Yeah.
especially in the time we're in now, that's real estate for these schools, that and public spaces that are struggling right now. And so,
Yeah.
there are people that want to use that space, and I think
You're
bringing
the
those
bridge.
two sides together, and bridging that gap, I think,
Yeah.
is our goal. And I think that is really what drives me.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, in terms of your role, what are you specifically focused on at Playeasy?
I would say that changes daily.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a bunch.
I would say something, yeah, something else you learn from playing sports is always be open to learning. And, I never think you know it all because you don't. And so I, I'm lucky to have the experience I did with sports because it's something I've taken into this world of entrepreneurship is I've always taken the time to learn from people who are willing to teach me. And I think, you know, where my role lies, I am now the COO role. So I do a lot of the organization and back end type work to make sure that, we're getting the job done that we need to get done and we have the resources to be able to do that. I
Yeah,
also have gotten into more of a product type role. So I've taught myself how to code a bit over the past year. So I do a lot of our the UI look. So if you go on our site, I've done that. And also just, we're all always just trying to get our name out there. We just recently have kind of come out with our new launch, which unfortunately was supposed to be a bit bigger, and with
yeah,
the timing of everything, things
yeah,
change, but
yeah,
we've adapted, and so I think we're finally in a position to really start to market our product and the value that it provides. And so that's just in the last few weeks. And so I'm always trying to have conversations with as many people as possible to learn from them and also just, figure out the best ways to how to build our platform to bring as much value as it can to both sides of our market.
awesome, awesome. Um, Anything else that you would like to talk about with Playeasy?
Trying to think. No, I'm just grateful,
Yeah,
if you ever have the opportunity to be a part of something from the ground up, I think, you can learn more than you could ever learn uh,
yeah,
doing anything else. So I'm just really grateful, and I think it's also really important to have a good team that you trust and you believe in. And so I think we have a really good team that keep each other motivated and
yeah,
pushing towards our main goal,
yeah.
which is great.
Um, if there's someone out there that is thinking about entrepreneurship, what's something you would tell them about the lifestyle and uh, to make sure that they might be the right person for it?
It, you have to be willing to adapt.
Yeah,
It's something that I've really had to get better at. My for my whole life, my life was scheduled out. I knew, when games were, when practice was, when
yeah,
when class was, when
yeah,
this was happening. You reach this goal, this is going to happen, and things are constantly changing. Uh,
yeah,
you know, I mean, obviously this pandemic has affected everyone, but
yeah,
it's something that could have easily let us fold, and I think you just have to have the confidence and um, the resilience just to keep doing what you're doing.
yeah,
So I think, yeah, be ready to be adaptable, be ready to learn. I think something that I wish that more students and student athletes did today was, you don't need a paid internship. You
yeah,
just need to get experience and
yeah,
to meet more people. And uh, I think even with broadcasting, like I would have never had the opportunity to, call games at the men's ACC tournament, you
yeah,
know, be sidelined if I didn't take the time to really put the time in and to learn from some great people. And so, yeah, I think just, put yourself out there and know it's a lot of hard work, but it's a lot of fulfilling work if you're doing something you're passionate about and you have a chance to really make a difference.
Yeah. Cool. Um, was there anything else you wanted to talk about? Obviously you are a very inspirational figure.
Oh gosh, thank you.
Women's basketball star.
Oh,
Part of the 1,000 club at BC, one of 22 women.
thanks.
Still the all-time leader in threes.
I'm not.
Now,
I'm not the
oh,
all-time.
okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was
At the time,
broken.
you were.
So
Okay. At the time you were.
yeah.
Uh, did Kelly? Was it Kelly?
I think Nicole Boudreau.
Oh, Boudreaux. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So
She
I mean,
learned
which
from
is
the
a
best.
yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, I'll tell her
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Good. That's
yeah. Uh,
good. And now also an ACC Digital Network commentator. Um, so just leading a very impressive life. Was there
oh,
anything
thanks.
else you would want to talk about?
No, how are you doing in
I'm good.
this
I'm good.
pandemic and
I'm good.
quarantine?
I'm
Yeah.
good. Yeah, no, it's no, like you said, it's it's shocked a lot of people, and it's something that, as you talked about, pivoting, something you have to constantly do in life and in business. So,
Mhm.
but I think um, for me, like with this project, especially, um, it's been so fulfilling because I want to continue to show you know the good stories in life, and continue to inspire people, because I think a lot of people don't do don't take that step, like you did in founding a company, and the impact that you can have with even one kid, being able to rent out a gym and shoot some hoops, for a night. I mean, that's just, that's priceless, because you know, he gets to, or she gets to work on their game, and just have a good night, and, or, for the facility to, they might not be even getting someone looking at their facility to get that recognition. I mean, there's just, so, um, really just, you know, amazed with your life's work. So I
Oh
want to
gosh,
continue
thank
to
you.
support it. Yeah.
Hey, yeah, and kudos to you. I mean, I think that's another piece of advice. It's just taking the leap of faith, and I think it's incredible. You started this, and I think it's great. I wish you luck.
Thank you.
Um, and thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Yeah. Before we end, how can people support you? How can people find more about either reaching out to you personally or to Playeasy?
Yeah, yeah. So our website is playeasy.com. So you can find, our site there, our product there. And then to reach out to me, I love hearing from people. So, LinkedIn, I'm on there. You can put my name up, Kerri
Cool.
Shields,
Yeah.
on Instagram. I'm not very active on social media. I need to be more active, but yeah, always love hearing from people. So, um,
Cool.
yeah,
Thank you, Kerri.
great. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you.